Good evening. Welcome to part 13 of the Contemplations on the Ashtavakra Gita. I'm going to try and do a fairly short one tonight because I've had a night with my bloody mobile phone. The teaching tonight is called Special Instruction. Okay, so it's not a particularly long one, but it's been an interesting couple of days. Because I've not done a video for a couple of days now, and it's funny because this whole situation that the world is in at the moment is somewhat of a chaotic melting pot for, or rather opportunity for much of the collective as well as the individual shadow to start showing up, right? And when it shows up consciously, with conscious work and conscious awareness, it can be handled in a way that can be quite healing. It can be handled in a way which develops further self-awareness, further comprehension, and also, final annihilation, if you want to call it that, of certain patterns which may have been toxic within your life, and obviously the life of others if it has affected other people too. And unfortunately, most of the time the shadow comes out unconsciously, and triggers such as this pandemic, which creates a state of confinement for not only the physical body, but the mental body, the spirit, the kind of the astral emotional body, and the higher mental aspect. When you constrict yourself, be it through social distancing, which isn't really social distancing, it's kind of sheltering in place, if you want to call it that, or physical distancing. Because when you start calling it social distancing, right, again, that's another subconscious spell that's being cast on you. Social distancing. I mean, we can still talk to each other over the phone. We can still video link each other. We still see people out there. We still go shopping. We're still getting on with our lives to some extent. So it's not really social distancing, and we've got to be very careful of the words that we use because they entrench certain perspectives and responses within our subconscious mind, which then create patterns going forward. So be aware of the words that are being used and being projected at you through television, through media, through other aspects. This other thing that came up the other day was that, get ready for the new normal, right? I mean, please. We're not even out of this yet, right? And you've got heads of state all over the world repeating this new normal, new normal, new normal, new normal rhetoric, as if they're preparing you for something which they feel you have no influence over, right? Who is anyone to tell you what your normal is? Who is anyone to tell you what your new normal might be when you're through a situation like this, when you've either been traumatized or challenged or put into some kind of melting pot of chaos that has triggered aspects of you that you probably never knew even bloody well existed, right? Not necessarily from a negative perspective, but probably from a positive perspective as well. And so your new normal is only valid for you, not for anyone else. So when you look at these things, social distancing, new normal, mandatory vaccine, all this kind of stuff, it's you either look at it from the perspective of, oh my God, we're being placed under more control, right? By who? I don't know. You don't have to submit to control, right? There's no one can impose their will over yours, ever, right? They might be able to impose physical force and physical will over you, physical power over you. Let's call it. No, let's not call it power. Force over you. But it's the will of your soul. It's the lack of consent, let's say, to someone else's will, which holds your soul in place, which holds your spiritual agreements in place. Okay, and they're more important than the physical ones. You know, the physical stuff is just temporary. Yeah, but if you've sold your soul, yeah, to feel maybe safe in the material, if you've to some extent given away your authenticity through fear, through desire, through wanting things to be a certain way when they're not, then that creates kind of karmic patterns and consequences, which sometimes then manifest or develop into kind of further shadow qualities. So I'm going to do another video that's going to go into a bit more depth, you know, regarding the shadow and how we can start to look at it and work with it. But please be aware as we go forward on this, in these changing times, that it will bring up people's shadow. It will, you know, uncomfortable situations are the best opportunities for growth. Okay? There is at some level order in chaos, even though you might not be able to see it. Trust that spirit, with a capital S, the higher self, can see it. And that sometimes you just got to ride the wave, yeah? Ride the storm. Maintain your center within it, but ride it. Ride it, you know, get your bloody surfboard out and flow with it and see where it takes you. Without getting too worried about it. Because it's all going to end one day anyway, isn't it? So I like to observe sometimes. I like to kind of sit back and watch the show and maybe kind of interject at times, you know, either positively or negatively, depending on people's perspective. Sometimes I like to create a little bit of chaos just to help people bring up some of the stuff they might want to look at, okay? Especially if I'm doing one-to-one work. You know, shamanic work is very much about uncovering the shadow aspect and healing the traumas and the wounds, which generally are the root cause for the shadow qualities to be manifesting in the first place. So it's really important to understand that we all lose our shit sometimes. We all go into states of self-pity, self-entitlement, you know, anger, lust, pride, all these things that are weak, really. They are weak. They're weak and forceful. And they end up trying to draw power from others in more often than not very manipulative ways. Fear is what will create the biggest weakness in your psyche, in your soul. Okay? If you've ever noticed when you've been fearful, you're not particularly strong, right? You know, you might have adrenaline flowing through you if you're kind of in extreme fight or flight. So physically you might be strong for a very short period of time. But after that, you're exhausted. Okay, your body's fucked. And more often than not, if you're in real fear, you don't even go. You know, if the fight response is triggered, then yeah, you have this kind of moment of madness. But if the flight response is triggered, if you can't run, or if you succumb to the fear so much that you go into freeze, yeah, freeze again is another aspect of the fear trigger, which can be really, really damaging and can really stymie you and stop you from from moving forward and understanding yourself fully, because fear is our biggest teacher. These demons serve a purpose, guys. Yeah? They want to make you fearful, right? So you can look them down, look them in the eye and go, thank you for that. Thank you for triggering that vulnerability in me so I can understand it more fully, and that I can heal it, and that I can love it, and that I can also let go and surrender my fear to a higher power, okay? The biggest fear most of us have, really, actually not all people are afraid of death, you know, depending on whether you've died before you die, you know, and done some work. Generally, death isn't something to fear. But there are a lot of people that fear, not necessarily death, because death's quite easy, really. Once you're gone, isn't it? It's the pain and the suffering that you might have to endure up to that point. So, when situations like COVID-19 pandemics come along and your life's disrupted and you're placed in situations which, you know, trigger your fear responses, it's a great opportunity to meditate on those and comprehend them and understand where the attachments are behind them, and understand where and what do you want to take into your new normal, all right? See, I said it, new normal. Again, there is no bloody normal, all right? I don't care what people say. Normal, right, doesn't exist. We are such a diverse, rich mix of creative souls on this planet that there is no normal, okay? What's normal for you would be abnormal for someone else. Simple as that, right? But what a situation like this can teach us is, once we've been forced to some extent to slow down, simplify, be in close-knit, not necessarily wider community, but familial community, it can really show us what's been serving us and what's been toxic to us. I mean, I've read a lot on Facebook that they've, you know, since this lockdown, let's just take China, for example, in Wuhan, you know, they locked everyone down for a month or whatever it was, and all the pollution levels dropped. And you're seeing the world, so you're seeing the planet, our mother, our supporter, right, cleaning up, yeah? It's lovely not to see planes in the sky. It's lovely not to see all these fucking chemtrails everywhere. It's lovely to breathe fresher air. I don't know if you've noticed, the air seems a little bit sweeter. It's lovely not to be so busy, right? It almost feels, because I was born in the early 1970s, and as I lived through the 70s and early 80s, the time now reminds me of my childhood. No traffic on the road, out on my bike, out in the fresh air, out in nature, having fun, just being, yeah, just playing, just being. And we've taken ourselves so pissing seriously for far too long that we've created a system of support for ourselves that is killing us. It's stressing us out. So, as I've stated before, Hermeticism states that your microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is merely a reflection of the microcosm. As within, so without. So Wuhan cleaned its game up when it locked everyone away, right? And now they're all back to work, doubling up on effort and trying to catch up for their lack of productivity. The sky's black again and they're breathing in shit. Because they haven't learned. They haven't freaking learned that slowing down is actually quite a good thing, yeah? And that it's your inner toxicity that eventually gets reflected outwardly, yeah, as pollution, as mistreatment of the planet, as overindulgence, as slaughter of animals and plant life, as total disregard for the intrinsic synchronistic dependency that we have, not only within each other and our communities, but with nature. Try breathing, right, when there's no oxygen, yeah? You can't. If there was no air to breathe, you'd be dead in an instant, right? You don't control the manufacture of air, right? Trees do that. Well, they don't control the manufacture of air, but they control the transfer of carbon dioxide and oxygen. So they produce a lot of oxygen for us. And yeah, I know you've heard all this before. You know, we're chopping the poor beings down, right? They're serving a very useful purpose for us on this planet, and we're chopping them down. But I have heard some good news today, actually, that in Wales they're going to be planting a forest. In Wales they're going to be replanting a new forest. I don't know how big it's going to be, but it sounds like it's going to be big, which is great. Great bloody news. At last, someone within this total shit show of a what we call a civilization at the moment, someone's taking some initiative in Wales and doing something to help nature recover, right? So everyone locked away at the moment. You should all be really proud of yourselves because you're helping the earth recover by slowing down, by indulging less, by looking at what you need in your life versus what you want in your life. And sometimes we have to sacrifice our wants for the greater good, okay? I've had to sacrifice Costa coffee and it's been really tough, yeah? But I don't know what the impact on my 1 cup of cappuccino most days, right, has on the planet. Yeah? I don't know. They tell me it's fair trade. They tell me they support farmers, but I don't know how much rainforest has been chopped down to grow coffee beans or whatever. I don't know. I haven't done the research. Imagine 3-4 billion people on this planet chomping away at McDonald's and eating drinking Costa coffee and feeding these multinational behemoth organizations that are raping the planet. Right? We ain't going to last very long at this rate of consumption, yeah? Have you noticed we're also called, we're not called human beings anymore. We're not even called humans, we're called consumers. You know? We are likened to locusts. You know, in biblical times said that the earth would see a plague of locusts and maybe we are it. Yeah? And now we're all locked away. Now we've been forced to slow down. We see the planet slowly starting to heal and rest and recover, which is a good thing. But as much as I hold out trust and hope that what we bring into our new normal, right, is going to be a reflection of our own inner work, unless we've done our inner work, we're going to repeat the old bloody normal again until that point in time where the planet is going to give us an even bigger challenge to have to deal with to help us learn. So, getting in touch with your shadow nature, getting in touch with your desirous nature, getting in touch with your egoic nature, everything that is selfish in you, really, to some extent, everything that is self-serving, the individualized I, is really important before you emerge into your new normal. Because if you want your new normal to be like your old normal, fine. But expect more pain in that process, because whether you like it or not, our outer reality will continue to reflect our inner reality. So clean up your game inside, we clean up the game outside. And there's a lot of cleaning up to do, guys. There really is. There's a horrendous amount of cleaning up to do. Yeah, I love cleaning. My partner, she cleaned my house today. She absolute love it to pieces, you know. I was out and about a little bit today, and she cleaned my house from top to bottom, and I walked in and it was like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I've had my kids for 10 days and I dropped them back to their mothers this morning, and so you can imagine the house, although I tried to keep on top of things, had that festering quality of teenage clothing, farts, you know, and general malaise and apathy that you know, I was going to kind of freshen up myself, but bless her, Wendy, she did a cracking job. So if you're watching this video, Wendy, which I'm sure you will be at some point, I love you. Thank you for cleaning my house. I don't just love you because you clean my house, but, you know, thank you. So, and that's a classic example of what's important. What values are we looking to bring forward into our lives going forward? You know, it's lovely to have the time to clean your own house, even though I didn't do it today, right? But it is lovely to have the time to be able to slow down enough to cook a proper meal for yourself, sit down with your children and eat at a table, and not have interruptions, or not have to be pinging emails, or not be working late, and all this kind of stuff, and actually getting back to that 1970s, 1980s quality of life, which didn't have the technology and all the bloody nonsense we got nowadays, but had, to some extent, more community spirit and a pace of life which was more in tune with our souls. So this is an opportunity to recalibrate, and we can only recalibrate if we are willing to do our shadow work. And our shadow work can be difficult. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on it in this video. I'm going to kind of keep it for another video. We're going to work on how we look at our shadow, and what triggers our shadow and why, and all this kind of stuff. But I just want you to bear in mind going forward that the more you get to know your shadow and comprehend it, the more you can annihilate aspects of your ego which have caused toxic patterns for you, your life, and that way you heal not only forwards, you heal backwards too. Okay, so in different dimensional levels, you know, everything's kind of all happening simultaneously, really. Time is the illusion of the third and, to an extent, fourth dimensional frameworks that exist within this universe, right? And please, if there's a quantum physicist out there reading this, I'm not a quantum physicist, right? I kind of understand it metaphysically and spiritually, but I don't understand it from the perspective of quantum physics. But even quantum physicists talk about dimensions and parallel universes and brains and all this kind of stuff. So I've read a few books. I've read Penrose and some other people as well, but I don't profess to really want to be getting too much into that. I prefer to allow the feeling to, you know, help me intuit what might be beyond this time-space reality. That was a divergence to the session, but I'm going to read, because you're probably bored of my voice now, I'm going to read the special instruction tonight. Okay, the special instruction is teaching number 16. And Ashtavakra said, "You can recite and discuss scripture all you want, but until you drop everything, you will never know truth. You can enjoy and work and meditate, but you will still yearn for that which is beyond all experience, and in which all desires are extinguished. Everyone is miserable because they exert constant effort, but no one understands this. A ripe mind can become unshackled upon hearing this one instruction. The master idler, to whom even blinking is a bother, is happy, but he is the only one. When the mind is free of opposites, like this is done and this is yet undone, one becomes indifferent to merit, wealth, pleasure, and liberation. One who abhors sense objects avoids them. One who desires them becomes ensnared. One who neither abhors nor desires is neither detached nor attached. As long as there is desire, which is the absence of discrimination, there will be attachment and non-attachment. This is the cause of the world. Indulgence creates attachment. Aversion creates abstinence. Like a child, the sage is free of both, and thus lives on as a child. One who is attached to the world thinks renouncing it will relieve his misery. One who is attached to nothing is free, and does not feel miserable, even in the world. He who claims liberation as his own, as an attainment of a person, is neither enlightened nor a seeker. He suffers his own misery. Though Hara Hari or the lotus-born Brahma himself instruct you, until you know nothing, you will never know self. Special instruction. Okay? Less doing, more being. Yeah? Less doing, more being. Let's get back in touch with the beautiful synchronicity that we have within our natural environment and also with each other without our shadows getting in the way, without our egos getting in the way so much. Let's learn from this whole experience, yeah? Let's not take no shit, by the way, right? Because there's plenty of people out there with agendas based on this occurrence, this global occurrence, all right? So this isn't about not being aware. It's not about not setting boundaries. It's not about, surrendering to the party line, let's say. You've still got to some extent, create or engage in balanced willful action. But that has to be balanced more with rest, recovery, calmness, serenity, and peace. And I've experienced more peace in the last however many weeks it's been, at times, than I have in a long time. Because I've actually been able to get back in touch with a more appropriate flow and pace of life. So have a feel into what you want your new normal to be coming out of this. Don't let anyone else tell you what it should be. Yeah? It's unique to you. But I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get to a point now where you'll go, wow, I've actually, this has been a real opportunity to feel into what's been serving me and what hasn't been serving me, and where I've given my power away too much and where I haven't given my power away too much. And all these little things in life which, when you look back on them from a place of confinement and a place of, or a slower pace, it gives you the opportunity to comprehend them more effectively and make more discriminatory, discerned choices. Okay? So, make choices. Start to think about what you want to take forward when we are allowed to go out and play again. And let's see if we can create a new game. Okay? There we are. See you next time.